Okay, it is live at 5, the latest episode of Reality Bites. My name is Dan. I am one half of the power couple known as GenX Realtors in Charleston. My beautiful wife is currently airborne, flying into South Carolina, coming back home, and I will be running the show today. So if you were hoping to see my beautiful bride on camera, you're going to have to wait till next week, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth the wait, I promise. Okay, today, as the video description says, we are going to show you how to save thousands of dollars and a bunch of time. How do we do that? Well, we're going to turn you into junior detectives when it comes to purchasing your next home. So whether you're a first-time home buyer or you've bought homes in the past, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, things to look for when you're walking through a showing of a home that you're thinking about purchasing. Because the last thing you want to do is just say, I love it, let's make an offer, and then you get the inspection done and find out there's all kinds of things wrong with it. And if you'd spent a little bit more time and been a little bit more observant, you might have caught a bunch of the stuff before it even got to that point. So let's start with, what is a home inspector? Well, a home inspector is a qualified professional that does a visual inspection of a prospective home that you're looking to purchase. So they're going to check major systems. They're going to check the roof. They're going to check the plumbing. They're going to check the electrical. They're going to check the foundation, and they're going to check the HVAC. And you want them to do this because those are some of the most expensive aspects of a new home that you're looking to buy. And when it's your most expensive investment, you want to make sure that there's no surprises on the other end. Because why do you want the home inspection? Well, you can avoid surprise repairs. You can be able to negotiate repairs or possibly negotiate the cost of the house, the price of the house. You can understand the maintenance needs of that home, and then all that stuff together lets you make an informed decision about what you're about to do. And during the due diligence period is the point where you would have the inspector come in. So you want to make sure you do that as early as possible, because what might happen is that first inspection may uncover issues or problems that would require further investigation. Like you might need to get an expert at foundations to come in, or a structural engineer to come in to take a look at something that may have been uncovered during the first inspection. So give yourself plenty of time when you get to that point. But like I said, we're going to save you time, we're going to save you money, and we're going to make you a junior detective on what to look for when you're looking for a house to buy, a house to make your home. So the first thing is, you want to consider any sort of water damage, okay? So what you'd be looking for, if there's certain areas of the house that are freshly painted, that might be like a scratch your head like, why did that section of the house get freshly painted? What happened? You also want to look at like where water sources are located. So for example, if on the second floor there is a washer and dryer, what's directly under that part of the house? So if you go down to the next floor below, look up at that ceiling and say, does this have staining, or is there any indication that there might have been a leak that otherwise wouldn't have been detected? Also, too, you can look at the ceiling itself, where the roof is, and if there's stains on the ceiling. You can then go to the outside of the house and say, okay, is there air conditioning condenser on the roof? Is there waste pipes in that general area? Like, is there anything sticking out of the roof that would be adjacent to or near where that stain had appeared? And then also too, if you get a chance where you can poke your head up into the attic, if the home has an attic space, look at the rafters, do a visual inspection if you can. And what you're looking for is, are the beams black, or do they have like a white fuzz on them that would possibly be an indication of mold? Because the last thing you want to do is put in an offer, get to the point where you're doing the inspection and then find out, oh gosh, there's mold throughout the whole house. So you can do some simple things just to look for any sort of water infiltration that would just be visible to the naked eye. So any kind of staining, if you're looking at the exterior of the house, maybe there's a wet spot on the foundation and it's like, well, why is that spot wet and the rest of it isn't? Those are things that you're going to want to look at and have questions about when you're doing your search. And then also you can ask the seller. I mean, they're going to have a disclosure statement where it's going to list everything that they know about, but ask the seller, were there any recent insurance claims on the home? Because that would be important to know as well. Next thing you want to take a look at is any sort of electrical problems, and things that you would kind of tip your hat to that would be like maybe they did changed a garage into an extra room. Okay. Who did the work? Was it a DIY project? Is the homeowner a contractor where they're qualified to do that kind of work? Did they have permits? Like, so let's say they redid the kitchen, but it looks like they might have done it themselves. My wife and I were in an open house where in the kitchen, you could tell that somebody that wasn't a professional put in the countertops, because the area where the kitchen sink was, you could see where they kind of used like a grinder to make the cutout for the sink. Like it wasn't a professional job. So at that point, you're starting to ask questions like, well, if they did this in this part of the kitchen, what else did they do? That's where you'd want to look at any sort of electrical hazards, like fire hazards, because you don't want your new house to burn down. And then you can always get, as part of the inspection, you can always hire an electrician to kind of go back and look at any work that was done on a part of the house that was remodeled or changed. And then the next thing would be any foundation or structural issues. So if I'm going through a house that I'm potentially going to buy, I'm going to look like behind furniture. Like I want to see, like, did they put a piece of furniture up against a big crack in the wall that it was covered up, and if I hadn't moved that, I wouldn't have seen it? Am I opening a door and the door is sticking, like it's dragging on the floor, or it's stuck in the frame where I have to use some force to get the door open? That could be an indication of a foundation issue, a structural issue. That could even be a water issue. Who knows? Or, if you're looking up at the corners of a doorway, are there giant cracks? We had one home, for example, where there was like a cracked tile, and then the one next to it was cracked, and it kind of went in a diagonal line. And when that tile was pulled up, turned out there was a crack in the foundation. So all those tiles had stress fractured along the line of that crack in the foundation. So at that point, it's like, whoa, okay, why is there cracks in the tile, and why do they run in a diagonal line across the house? So those are things that you can look at when it comes to structural issues. And again, you want to make sure you have time to have second opinions if you get to a point where you're having an inspector and these problems are coming up. And then the HVAC, the heating and air conditioning system, it might work perfectly fine when you're going to the showing, but do we know how old the system is? What if it fails a month after I move in? What if the unit's 15, 20 years old and it just quits a month after, or in the summertime when it's super hot, it just decides to fail? At that point, you might want to look at, hey, let's negotiate some credits because this could be a problem down the road. Now, what Angel and I have done in the past is we'll offer, in some cases, a home warranty, or we'll negotiate for the seller to provide a home warranty. So if you do have older systems, it's okay, but you've got this assurance that within the first year or the first 2 years that you're in the home, that stuff's going to be covered. If anything goes wrong with it, it's going to be repaired, replaced, and you just have to pay a service charge. So that's a great way to offset a potential problem if you're dealing with older systems like that. And then you could find out what the replacement cost would be for that system. Say it's really old and you're just concerned, like, gosh, I just feel like this thing's going to bite me, after the fact. Once we get into the home, find out what it would cost, get an estimate on what it would cost to replace the system, and work that into the negotiations for the home. Now, normally on the channel, we would have a GenX fun fact. Well, I don't have my beautiful bride here to ask the question to. I mean, I might have viewers out there, but we do not have a fun fact. But I do have a story that a lot of you could probably relate to. Now, I had a Slinky when I was a kid. Now, Slinky was invented back in 1945, but it's definitely a GenX thing. They had the Slinky commercial with the song, walks downstairs, a loner in pairs, and makes a slinkity sound. So everybody knows that song from our generation. But here's my question. How many of you got your Slinky into the impossible knot? Meaning, at some point, you were swinging the Slinky around, and it like tied itself into itself, and you're like, okay, I don't know how this happened, and I don't know how to fix it. And you end up either cutting the Slinky in half or just pitching it in the trash. Is that you? Has that happened? Because it's happened to me. And if you're new to the channel, I would ask you guys to let us know in the comments, where are you watching us from? Because my wife was just in California. She's a realtor coast to coast, and she handles business in California and in South Carolina. And we would love to know where you're watching us from. We love to have new viewers and viewers from all over the country. So let us know, where are you? And then just as a reminder, this video is being hosted by or sponsored by our VIP call. So you can schedule a VIP call with Angel and I to discuss a potential move, a potential sale, a potential purchase of a house if you're looking to move to the Charleston area. We are located in Somerville, but we service Charleston, Somerville, Hanahan, Johns Island, James Island, Sullivan's Island. You name it, if it's in this part of the country, we can help you out with it. So please, when you get a chance, book a call with us. It's free. There's no obligation. If you have questions, we have answers. Now, let's get back to the stories of being your own detective. So we've talked about being your own detective, like what to look for certain aspects of the house, because here's the thing. You're going to save thousands of dollars by seeing problems before the inspector even gets to them to help you negotiate a better price for the home. You're going to save time because, let's be honest, if I go to a showing of a house and I'm going through my mini detective checklist that I've given you, and I'm like, shoot, the doors are sticking. They did a janky renovation on the kitchen. I'm seeing water spots all over the place. I don't even think we need to put in an offer for this. Let's find something else. Because you never want to fall in love with a house just based on the initial reaction to it. Like, oh my gosh, it's got the wraparound porch. It's got a lot of land. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because if the seller catches wind of the fact that you're in love with this house, your negotiating power gets lost, because then they know, like, hey, they are in love. We want you to be in like with the house. And then if you see these problems cropping up, you can not like it and move on. But if you fall in love with the house, you're going to come up with excuses on, well, it's only a little leak, or yeah, the roof is old, but it should hold for the next couple of years and then we can save up money to fix it. You're going to make up excuses to get yourself into a situation that could be very costly in the near future. So you can date the house, but don't propose to the house until you've done your due diligence and checked everything out. But you could have a seller where all these things come up. Let's say you get to the point where, hey, I'm going to do the home inspection, and you tell the seller, hey, there's all this stuff wrong. I mean, the seller could come back and say, hey, take it or leave it. That I'm not going to do the repairs. And again, if you're emotionally attached to the house, it's going to be hard for you to say no. Because in the inspections, that's what gives you leverage to be able to negotiate. And have a number in your head that's a walk away number. Like, if the costs of these repairs hits X amount of dollars, we're out. We don't want it. We can't afford it. And then use your repair requests strategically, work on the main things. There might be trivial things like there's paint flaking on a wall somewhere, or the screen door doesn't open or close right. And those are minor things that you could potentially fix on your own and potentially cheaper on your own. But it's the main things, like the major systems of the house, the roof, the foundation, the electrical, the plumbing, the HVAC. Those are the ones that you want to put the effort behind to get credits or repairs done. And so I guess my question for you guys is, what are things that scare you about home inspections? And if, when you're watching this live stream, if you've had to walk away from a deal because of the inspection, put remarks in the video so that we can see what situation you dealt with. We would love to know how you handled it and what was the tipping point where you said, no, I'm not doing it. But again, I hope this live stream was helpful. You can see our email address there. If you want to talk to us, if you have questions, you can call us, you can email us. We're readily available to help you with whatever we can. And you can be your own junior inspector on a prospective home and save yourself some money. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next week live at 5 for the next episode of Reality Bites. See ya.